Welcome to the Leverage Your Potential podcast. This podcast is hosted by the Director and Assistant Director of Menlo College's Office of Internships, Career Services, and Study Abroad, Dylan Houle and Kelly Davis, in partnership with Menlo's Content Creation Club. Welcome to our special episode of Leverage Your Potential. We would like to welcome Menlo's students, faculty, and staff to the start of the fully online fall semester. Today's bonus episode features a small portion of a much longer conversation with President Weiner, recorded on May 22nd, 2020. This snippet dives into President Weiner's thoughts on the upcoming semester. While much has changed in the last 3.5 months, his optimism has not wavered. We hope you enjoy this special episode.
So thinking about the future now, COVID-19 is impacting a lot of things. It's impacting different institutions in different ways. For Menlo, we have our own unique set of characteristics. You mentioned one of them, how 43% of our students are student athletes. We have a very large number of international students, around 25% this year. And COVID-19 has brought plenty of challenges with that. So how are we going to move forward? And you've only got about 5 minutes just to forewarn you. But how do we move forward with these challenges while still trying to keep that Menlo College experience intact?
Yeah, it's a several $million question.
The golden question, yes.
Yes, indeed, that too. Colleges and universities everywhere are struggling with this pandemic as society is more broadly all across the globe. And so many people are suffering in terrible ways, and lives have been lost, and economic hardship is something that we're seeing everywhere. There is no way in which I will view this pandemic as a opportunity. I don't want to cast anything, suggest that there's anything that's positive about it. We are more fortunate than many colleges and universities in that we entered this pandemic at maybe one of the strongest points in our history. The freshman class last year was fully 35% larger than the freshman class before, which in itself was at a record high. I described athletics as coming off of the most successful year it had had. We had a few years previously successfully either launched or reinvigorated 3 academic programs when we reintroduced real estate, strengthened sports management, and launched entrepreneurship here at Menlo College. And those 3 very quickly established a track record of success, and even today, I think are positioned to be extraordinarily important in the future of Menlo College because of the student interest they can attract, and because of the career opportunities they can open up for students who pursue those 3 programs. So many colleges, particularly small colleges, have been struggling in recent years, and this pandemic will be tough for them to navigate. It's tough for us to navigate, but we're able to leverage that point of strength. And in particular, kudos to our trustees for this. They have not lost their confidence in Menlo College. And when we entered this pandemic and saw the financial and programmatic havoc it was going to wreak on us, while many other boards reacted initially by saying, you have to cut. And as we've seen, there have been wide-scale layoffs and programmatic retrenchment at colleges and universities of all sizes everywhere. Our board did not say that. Our board said, we need to protect this college because it has been on a trajectory that is one we we accept will be tempered somewhat, but we want to be in a position to continue that trajectory when we come through this. And they back that up with financial commitments, with the willingness to deploy the unfortunately somewhat limited resources we have in the form of our endowment, to ensuring that we were able to maintain our employee base, to continue to serve our students, to keep our dormitories open for those students who didn't have a choice about where to go during the pandemic. And we have come through these last few months with some extraordinary success stories, and again, in the face of truly awful circumstances. We were able to provide a home to almost 200 students after the shelter-in-place order was imposed. We were able to keep our community safe. We were able to pivot in extraordinary ways, and again, I need to do another hats off, and this is to Grand Lum for his leadership of our faculty, and each and every member of the faculty and staff who rallied when this shelter-in-place order was first imposed, to very quickly provide education in a totally different way to our students. And we supported our students for fully half the semester with distance learning, distance support, in a way that helped them get to the finish line at the end of the semester. And I'm extraordinarily proud being associated with an institution that demonstrated that level of support and commitment and agility and compassion and many other labels that I think reflect well on all of us. The core part of your question was, what's next? What's ahead? We still have a lot of navigating to do, and my crystal ball is hugely foggy, and the glass is very scratched. So it's hard for me to see where this pandemic will take us, when we'll be through this. Right now, our priority is to be able to afford the opportunity for our students to come back to campus this fall, to come back to campus in as safe an environment as we can possibly provide, and yet also allow for those who either cannot because of underlying health conditions, cannot because of their geographic location and travel restrictions that may be imposed, but to also provide the opportunity for those who cannot be on campus to nonetheless participate. We hope that will be a minority of our population, but we need to be there for them as well. Another aspect you touched on, international students. Menlo's great strengths, and it's been an oversight on my part that I haven't mentioned it up to this point, is the diversity of our community. And it's, many people, when they hear the word diversity, they think immediately of ethnic and racial diversity, and we absolutely have those achieved. And I'm proud of that fact, particularly when I reflect on this school's founding as basically an all-white, all-male school. We now have a level of ethnic, racial, and sex diversity that is a hallmark for us. But we also have geographic diversity. The 25% international students come from 29 different countries around the world. And that's something that makes our campus community experience richer. We haven't talked about study abroad, which is, I can't believe we haven't talked about, given your focus on that, Kelly. But I had a study abroad experience as an undergraduate, and it was a life-shaping experience. I was fortunate to have the opportunity to do that, both opportunity in terms of family support, of my institution's support, and my sense that I wasn't on a fast track to get out in 4 years, although ultimately that's what I did. But for many of our students, they don't have the opportunity to study abroad for any number of reasons that we, in another podcast, we can talk about. And yet we bring that a lot of that international exposure here because of that 25% composition from students outside our country. And I worry very much that that is threatened, particularly in the next few years through the combination of the pandemic, but also our country's more recent lack of reception for students, for people from other countries, and some of the immigration policies that have made this country a less desirable destination than it used to be. And I very much regret that. I regret that as a citizen. I also regret that as the president of Menlo College. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful we can still build on the track record we have and the alumni base that exists around the world who are committed to the Menlo's purpose and may be helpful to us as we try and retain our attraction to students from all over the world.
Stephen, I too am very hopeful. I think because of what Menlo is and the experience it brings, even if the national trends are that we're seeing fewer international students coming to the United States, I actually feel quite hopeful again that we at Menlo might be able to keep, 25% is very high. So
yeah, exactly.
And certainly in the next couple of years, that number will decrease, but I'm hopeful that we'll be able to bring it back up again. And
so I want to just wrap up with one final question. It's a question that we ask all of our guests. What's on your nightstand right now? What do you have a bookmark in? What are you reading, listening to, or watching that you think would be valuable for other people to enjoy?
Well, way too much of my reading time is consumed with reading about coronaviruses, COVID-19, the latest developments. So when I'm ready for the lights to go out, I pick up fiction. And generally speaking, that lasts for about a half hour before consciousness goes. These days, I'm reading a fictionalized account of the author George Sand. It's something called The Dream Lover. It's a book that was given to me by a friend after I was sharing with her that Menlo actually nurtures iconoclasts in so many ways, and also supports the development of young women to a degree that most other schools that focus on business do not. Business schools everywhere are dominated by men. Here, fully 46% of our students are young women, and that's another point of celebration. And this friend said, you should read George Sand. Well, I've never actually read anything by George Sand, even though in the early part of the 19th century, she was one of the most famous authors and was quite prolific in her career. But this friend gave me this book. It's called The Dream Lover. I don't love the book, but I love the insight into the world of literature and class structure as it existed in the early part of the 19th century in France. George Sand counted among her friends a whole laundry list of well-known names: Frédéric Chopin, Gustave Flaubert, Franz Liszt, Victor Hugo, and those names are littered throughout the book and stories about them. So it's a fictionalized accounting. I sure hope it's true to the facts to a great extent, because I'm enjoying both the opportunity to see the accounting of a very unusual life, and hers was, and she clearly broke all kinds of norms in her life, in ways that that should also be the subject of another podcast. But it's very much an escape. Fortunately, there was not a pandemic raging at the time that George Sand existed in France.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Stephen, and thank you for sharing your thoughts on your career journey, the past and present and future of Menlo College. It's been a real illuminating and enjoyable discussion.
Thank you, sir. Likewise.
Thanks for joining us today. If you would like to hear more about President Weiner and his journey to and at Menlo College, check out the episode Journey to the Presidency with Stephen Weiner. Remember, you can check out our podcasts on Anchor.fm, Spotify, YouTube, and several other podcast host sites. You can also visit our blog at blog.menlo/career-services/. Make it a great day.